there's like no volume. It's strange. It's never the same setting twice. All right, let's see here. That's right. Damn. It's still really low. Let's check it out here. We'll crank this up a little bit. There it is. All right, that's a little bit better. Now I can bring this down just a hair, and it just barely hits the red. There we go. No, that's still too high. Test 1, 2. Audio. Bring that back up. Okay, that's right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Oh, that's now insanely high. All right, let's try this again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the one and only, the world famous Rich Wilson Show, and it starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Rich Wilson Show.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that's a little high. No, that's too far. Oh, sometimes we just got stuff in the way. All right, folks, welcome once again to the world famous Rich Wilson Show. I'm Rich Wilson, and you're not. That's right, folks. So, how was your weekend? Mine was good. I got burnt up pretty good. Spent this weekend out at Sea Rim State Park, trying out the new camping, the new camping device. It was a blast this weekend, let me tell you. Saturday was just absolutely gorgeous until the evening when the wind kicked in, and then we were dealing with about 28 mile an hour sustained winds with gusts up into the 40s. And we bought a brand new roof tent. That's right, roof tent. It is a tent that goes on the roof. And I've never stayed in one of these things. I've only seen pictures of them. And then we finally got it and set it up. Let me tell you, it is amazing to have a tent where you can literally be ready to sleep in it in 6 minutes. And when you're ready to leave, it takes about 10 minutes to put it all back together and take off down the road. It's amazing. It's amazing. Let me see if I can get you guys show you guys a picture of it for those of you guys who didn't get to see. Maybe you didn't see the photographs this weekend. Give me a second here. This thing is amazing. Yeah, we'll just throw it on that one. Why not? Screw it. That's 4.4. I think that'll work. Go back over here. Right there. Huh. That's interesting. It's not showing me as live. Let's see here. All right, there we go. All right, sorry. Doodling around with some things. And poor Dave's over there going, what are you doing to me, bro? Let's see. Yeah, go ahead and bring that photo up. Wow, there it is. It's right there. So this is it. This is the rooftop tent. And I know it seems kind of strange, but that's it. Amazing thing. It really is. That's our entire camp setup. We had that entire camp set up and ready to rock and roll in 30 minutes. And doing that with traditional tent, especially the cabin tent we have and everything else, take about an hour, hour and a half. So definitely worth it, folks. They're not a sponsor of the show. I might talk to them about the possibility of doing a sponsorship for the show, but check them out. It's called the company's called Roof Nest, and amazing equipment. Like I said, it stood up to sustained 28-mile-an-hour winds. We had gusts up around 40. So definitely an amazing piece of equipment there. But that's not what I came here today to talk to you about. What we came here to talk about is the little bill that couldn't. As you know, Joe Biden's got this thing about ghost guns. Now, what a ghost gun is, let me explain this to you so in case you don't know. A ghost gun is a gun that has no serial numbers. Very commonly and effectively known as, wow. I'm over here watching this side over here. There we go. But they don't, the government was using ghost guns for the CIA and the FBI, and they're just guns that don't have serial numbers on them, so they can do things they need to do, and there's no way to trace it back. Now, those guns are usually destroyed once the operation or whatever they're using it for is over, but also we like to call them garage guns. In the gun community, they're garage hack guns. Hack, of course, being a more common, modern term. But it's a gun basically manufactured by somebody. Now, you can, for years, if not decades, people been making garage kit guns. You know, it's nothing new. Okay? And so what you could do is, you know how Glocks are polymer-based? There's a bunch of different polymer-based guns. They actually have molds that you can buy now where you can actually make the mold. And when you take it apart, it has all the stuff on the inside to where all the mounts and stuff go. And then you can buy the internal kits. And you could build a gun. For a while, there was people that were 3D printing guns. There was a guy that actually 3D printed a 40 caliber handgun, and you could shoot it one or two times before the heat did something to it. Because understand that using just standard polymer is not good enough. It has to be mixed with something in order to be able to take the heat from actually firing a firearm and not breaking. So a lot of times these polymer guns that are garage made, half the time they don't work. When you go to fire it, the receiver section breaks or cracks, which means you might get one or two rounds out of it. By the time the third or fourth round comes out of it, the whole thing breaks apart. Because it's not just a matter of melting polymer down and pouring it into a mold. Okay, there's other things that have to be added to it, and these things I'm not going to tell you what they are because I don't want my listeners to go out and try to make one. My viewers should be responsible gun owners. I advocate responsible gun ownership. Follow the law. Okay, follow the law. Now I'm going to play the video, and I'm going to make comments on it and stuff like that of Biden's speech today concerning the gun bill that they're talking about doing. And how it's going to affect you as a law-abiding gun owner. Okay? And how it's not going to do anything to anyone else. Okay? So let's go ahead and bring that up here. All right. So it's kind of long, and so we'll get through this. I'm There we go. All right, so here we go. Give me a second. I forgot to turn on this part here. There it is. All right, so now you'll hear it. This comes from USA Today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Sorry, this is the loudest one I could get.
President Joe Biden members of Congress, members of our administration, friends, and fellow Americans. When gunfire rings out in a community, it brings fear and it brings pain to the victims, to those who love them, to the parents who tell their children to run into the bathtub when they hear gunfire on the street outside.
I wouldn't do that right now because most of your average bathtubs are not made out of metal anymore or porcelain. I used to deliver them. They're made out of fiberglass. And if people are using a what would be considered a high velocity rounds with deep penetration, bathtub's not going to stop it in most of these places, especially in some of these places where you have a lot of gun violence. If that round isn't slowed down by the wall and it's coming through the house, if it hits the bathtub, I'm almost going to guarantee you it's going through the tub. Okay? The only thing that can help you in that situation is get as many objects between you and the shots of the firearm. If the bathtub is your option, then the bathtub is your option. But get as many walls between you and where the gunfire is. Okay? I can tell you right now, I've got some rounds, even for my 45, that will shred through a house pretty quickly. You know, sheetrock does not slow down shit. Okay?
Because it is the safest place in the home from a stray bullet. Gun violence brings pain to the entire community, and by extension, to the whole of society.
She's not wrong.
As a prosecutor, I brought many perpetrators of gun violence to justice. But I knew, even after a successful prosecution, the hurt and the loss and the fear often still remained. To the survivors of gun violence who are here with us today, and to the friends and family members of those we have lost, I thank you for your incredible determination in the face of so much pain.
Well, here's an idea. She talks about how, and she put a lot of people away. I'll give her that. When she was DA of California, she put a lot of people away. When she was state attorney general, put a lot of people away of color. I mean, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has put more people of color away than combined than anybody else on the planet. But that's a side note. Okay. Here's an idea. Why don't we start actually prosecuting and putting hard time on people who do this kind of shit? We're soft on crimes involving guns. We're insanely soft. That would help. Just saying, that would help.
And it is a deep honor to stand with you today. As we know all too well, our nation continues to be plagued by an epidemic of gun violence. The President has worked for decades to end this terror. For my whole career, addressing gun violence has been one of my top priorities, first as a courtroom prosecutor, then as the elected district attorney of San Francisco when we created a gun specialist unit to go after violent offenders, then as Attorney General of California, where we worked within our California Bureau of Firearms to investigate and seize firearms for those who unlawfully possessed them. I have seen firsthand how our nation's epidemic of gun violence has been driven by the proliferation of guns in our communities, and increasingly in recent years by the proliferation of ghost guns. Ghost guns can be purchased on the internet and assembled at a kitchen table. They can be bought without a background check by people who otherwise would be legally prohibited from gun ownership: domestic abusers, gun traffickers, individuals convicted of violent crimes, and even young children. Traditional guns.
Okay, real quick. Young children purchasing ghost gun equipment and putting it together. Okay, you still have to have a working knowledge of how guns work in order to put a gun together. It's not as simple as they say it is. Okay, so don't let them say that your 5-year-old, you could hand a gun to your a ghost gun kit to your 5-year-old and he can assemble it like it's fucking Legos, and then he could shoot you. It's not that simple. I hate when they use terminology like this where you go, oh, well, children can buy this online and assemble it on the kitchen table. No. It's not quite that easy.
Are required to have serial numbers, which can help law enforcement identify a firearm that has been stolen from its lawful owner or found at the scene of a crime.
Hold on, time out. I didn't catch this before when I watched this. I need to pull this back just a hair because I need to hear if she just said what I think she said.
People who otherwise would be legally prohibited from gun ownership: domestic abusers, gun traffickers, individuals convicted of violent crimes, and even young children. Traditional guns are required to have serial numbers, which can help law enforcement identify a firearm that has been stolen from its lawful owner or found at the scene of a crime. Ghost guns have no serial numbers. They are practically untraceable, making it more difficult for law enforcement to hold to account those who use weapons to do violence. Because of how easy they are to access and how difficult they are to trace, ghost guns pose an especially grave threat to the safety of our communities. That is why, as a United States Senator, I was proud to co-sponsor a bill to manufacture and end the manufacturing, of sale of ghost guns. And it is why we are here today, to announce new actions to get ghost guns off our streets and to protect our communities from gun violence.
Okay. Ghost guns do not even make up 50% of the gun violence in the United States of America. Illegally obtained firearms through theft or black market sales which have serial numbers on them, but criminals don't care, are still the leading cause of gun violence in the United States of America. This ghost gun deal, as it is true, they do exist. Okay. Unlike what they're going to compare it to later, which doesn't exist, does not account for the percentage that they're claiming. Okay. So that's a false flag. Again, not easy to assemble these things. And if anybody who is a lawful gun owner goes to buy a gun and there's not a serial number listed on the gun, you need to stop right there and report them to the ATF. Whoever is selling you that firearm as a lawful firearm, you are required to report that to the ATF that somebody is attempting to sell you a firearm with no serial number available. Just saying. All right, let's continue.
The Department of Justice plays a critical role in addressing gun violence in our communities.
Yes.
And the actions we are taking today would not be possible without their partnership. So I'm proud to now welcome a leader who has spearheaded much of the department's work on this important issue, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco.
I still would like to know when they're going to address the some of the other stats come with gun violence.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Mr. President, Mia, there is no higher priority for the Department of Justice than keeping the American people safe. That is why every day we work with our community and law enforcement partners to combat violent crime through prevention and through prosecutions.
That prosecution
often,
part, that's a lie.
Murders and other serious crimes are committed with guns. Each victim of gun violence is someone's loved one, a neighbor, a friend. We stand together today in recognition of that loss and alongside all of those who have been touched by the tragedy.
Like I said, if
of
the
gun
audio is really
violence.
low, this is the best video I could get on
We
it.
also stand together with resolve and with hope for the future. Just over 1 year ago, the President, the Vice President, and the Attorney General stood in this very spot to announce new steps to curb gun violence. One such critical step is reining in so-called ghost guns. These are guns that have no serial numbers. They are nearly impossible for law enforcement to trace. Many are sold without a background check. They're accessible to almost anyone. They often come in kits. They can be bought online. They can be assembled quickly with little or no training.
Once again, that is inaccurate. Give me a second here. I need to check to see if there's anybody commenting over on Facebook because I don't have that up. Yep. Okay. Why do we need more gun laws? This is according to Eric. Why do we need more gun laws? Why don't we enforce the laws that are on the federal books? Yep. This is another political move that just hurts legal gun owners. I would like to see all the attachments to the bill. Oh, you're going to get to hear some of it, Nikolai. You're going to get to hear some of it. And I'm going to explain once again how it affects you. Sorry, if I got to switch back and forth.
That means that someone can convert parts in a box into a working gun with alarming ease.
That's,
Now,
again,
we
not
call them
true.
ghost guns because they can't be traced. But make no mistake, they are real. They can shoot to kill, and they do.
So far, that's
For
really
years,
the only accurate thing
criminals
she
have
said.
sought out these unmarked guns to murder and to maim. That's why the Attorney General has signed a rule that updates our regulations to keep up with changes in technology. The goal? To keep untraceable guns off of the streets, out of the hands of criminals and others who are prohibited by law from possessing a firearm. Some of the key changes include updating old definitions to ensure that gun laws apply to all firearms, including ghost guns, requiring gun dealers to run background checks on kits containing parts that can readily be converted into a gun, facilitating tracing by requiring firearms dealers to apply serial numbers to existing ghost guns so that they then take into inventory. Because of these updates, law enforcement will have additional crime gun intelligence to stop gun violence, to seek justice for victims of violent crimes, and to get guns used in crimes off of our streets. Today's announcement is one of many efforts by the Department of Justice to protect our communities from violent crime and gun violence. We continue to go after and disrupt illegal gun trafficking networks. We continue to go after and hold accountable the most violent offenders. And we are working every day with our partners in law enforcement and with community leaders to craft specific strategies to combat violent crime and keep communities safe.
Okay, that right there is an absolute lie. We're working with our communities to prosecute violent crime. What, by allowing people out the day after or the next or sometimes the same day with people that commit violent crime? Ask the state of New York. They had a dude they arrested that murdered somebody, let him out, and he murdered somebody within 24 hours of his arrest. we're doing it's the same thing like the illegal aliens when they give them a notice to appear at a later date. What's the percentage that shows up again? Less than 4%. Well, when you let a criminal out who just killed somebody and you say, well, you need to show back up at court at this date, how many of those do you think are showing back up again before they commit another crime? Less than 4% are showing back up at court on time. In fact, 90% of them are committing another crime after they're released. They're not doing anything to prosecute people. But understand what they just said. The kits that you can make you can put inside of one of these things. Any of us can buy this kit. I have one sitting right there. I could buy a kit to rebuild my ACP. Okay? Now that's going to require a background check. So $60 rebuild kit for that gun is now going to charge me on top of that another $35 in order to purchase it. And if Biden still gets his way about the $200 tax, it's actually going to cost me $200 on top of that to buy the rebuild kit for a gun that's registered already.
We will not stop until we reduce violent crime and save lives. As the Attorney General has said, the department will continue to apply every single tool at our disposal to fulfill that obligation. And now it is my great honor to introduce Mia Tretta.
All right, I'm going to fast forward past this. This is a girl that was involved in a school shooting. I don't remember which one off the top of my head. However, she just goes on a thing about how now she has to worry about, not a Spanish test, but also being shot in school. A kid got a hold of his dad's gun, which they said is a ghost gun, because it was unserialized, and shot people in the school. Okay, so I hope they convicted the dad, because if you have an unserialized firearm that's not a pre-serial number firearm, because those do exist. There are firearms out there that do exist. I'm going to go check over on Facebook to see if anybody's commenting, because I can't have both of them up at the same time. I apologize. I do. Okay, good. I'm glad Amber's involved because Amber knows guns. Amber said the feds are just upset with ghost guns because they can't track or tax them. LO assemble quickly with little training. They require a lot of finessing to build. You're correct. You're correct. Even 80% of lowers require social security numbers. I was going to get to that. Thank you, Amber, for that. Fear-based advertising. They are pleading out violent offenders. Yes, they are. All right, so let me get to the Facebook comments over here. And I do apologize if I don't respond immediately. I can't have both of them up at the same time. All right, so Amber got to something that I was gonna talk about. Okay. 80% of lowers require social security number. Require serial numbers now. Okay. Just like that one up there. If I buy the receiver. Okay, it has a serial number on it, and I have to go through background check. So if for some reason I damage the receiver on that, and I have to get a new one, okay, or the lower, I have to go through a background check again. That's $250 handgun. I'll tell you right now that $175 of that is going to be the bottom half of that firearm. Okay, I could buy slides all day long for $100 or less. Okay, I can buy barrels all day long, $100 or less. Okay. The expensive part of that firearm is the lower. The lower has the serial number on it. Okay? AR-15s. You can buy all the parts in the world to assemble one, except the lower. We don't require CCWs in the state of Texas. It's constitutional concealed carry. But, and so CCWs down here in Texas don't matter. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm probably going to get a federal firearms license, an FFL, so then I don't have to worry about that. Plus, I don't have to worry about the backgrounds and stuff like that if I want to. But anyhow, yeah, because with a federal firearms license, as long as you keep it up to date, anything you buy, you just register the serial number. You don't have to go through, because once you pretty much what you do is you register a serial number of the purchase of the firearm, and then the feds get it and they check and they say, okay, you're good to go. It's basically getting a background check for free. But anyway, but you can buy everything in the world except the lower for an AR-15. But to buy the lower, you have to get you have to get a lower that has a serial number, and you have to do a background check. And if you notice, you can buy barrels, you can buy all kinds of stuff for an AR-15. Not that expensive. Then you go to buy a lower, and you notice they're $800 because that's the primary frame that makes the gun go boom. That has all the mounts for all the stuff that makes it work. Okay? Without those mounts, it don't work. That's why it's the expensive part. Okay? But they're sitting here telling you that now the gun kits that you could buy, okay, require serial numbers. I want to know something. So like the ACP that's sitting behind me, and I know for you gun nuts, cheap 45 caliber, okay, but I like them. I'm a Ruger fan, always been a Ruger guy. So the important parts of that is the trigger bar, the spring, and the pin arm. Okay, those are the three most important parts on that piece to make it work. Now, of course, the firing pin, of course, but okay. But if you have damage on one of those three, and there's 16 other parts inside, but if you have damage on one of those three parts, it's not going to work. Okay. So when are they going to put serial numbers on springs? Because they can't. Unless they go to microscopic etching to put serial numbers on springs, and after you fire it about 100 times, they ain't going to have serial number on it anyway. Okay. They're going to require serial numbers on every part of the firearm. Which means that firearm manufacturers are going to have to change their manufacturing process, which is going to increase the cost of the firearms. Okay. Remember, I told you guys months ago that watch out, the government is going to find other ways because they know they're not going to be able to get rid of your Second Amendment. So they're going to find other ways. That $200 tax on anything you purchase for a firearm, which they're still trying to do, and Biden's got 2.5 more years to get it through. Okay? They're still working on that. Okay? Means if you buy a $30 magazine for your handgun, it's going to cost you $230. Well, magazines are going to have serial numbers on them soon. That's also, there's mention about magazines in this bill. They're not going to say it in this press conference, but it's in this bill. I'm going to play the Joe Biden segment of this. It kind of runs on a little bit, so I'm going to cut it off after a while, and then we'll talk about it. For those of you on Facebook, I do apologize if I don't get to your comments immediately, because I can't have Facebook and, well, I mean, I can kind of do that. Give me a second here. I can kind of move that over here and kind of minimize this somehow. That'll give me a little bit. I'm trying to make the window a little tighter so I can still see you guys' comments. I'm trying to do what I can so that way I can keep up with you guys at the same time, but it won't allow me to pop out chat. It won't allow me to pop out chat that. So let's go back to this. Like I said, I cut out the part where the girl talked because she's love it. The government. I mean, if you're but here's the problem. It's like I told you guys before. If you're a law-abiding citizen, okay, If you're a law-abiding citizen and you go to buy a firearm from a dealer and they tell you, whether it's a firearm or just the lower part, and they tell you don't require a background check and they don't have a serial number to give you so you can run your own check on the serial number, you're required. And if you really look into responsibility as a legal gun owner, you're actually required to report that person to the ATF. Like if you go to a gun show and somebody tries to sell you a gun, like you see a gun you want, and they say, oh, no background check needed. Walk away. Because there's something funny about that. Now, there are some states where they allow you to run a background check before you even walk at the door, which those would be amazing. But a lot of states have gone away from being able to do that because the fact is every time you buy a firearm, you're supposed to go through the check. That's why some of us will just go buy like 4 or 5 guns at the same time. That way we just got to do one background check with the serial numbers on it. It makes a background check take about a half an hour longer if you're in a state that can do same day like Texas. I walked in to buy that and I was literally out the door in an hour. So, but anyway, let's go into this. All right, so let's hear what Biden has to say. Joe, let her go. He just invited her back to the Oval Office. Sorry, I got to make fun of him.
Wow.
I don't like the guy.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Deputy Attorney General Monaco. And Mia, you're an incredible young woman. We spoke for a moment inside the Oval Office. And a lot of people here who have lost someone.
By the way, in case you're wondering, I'm drinking Black Rifle coffee.
Know that
Go figure.
no matter
Not a
what
sponsor of the show.
occasion, how celebratory or not it is, when you have to repeat it, you relive it like it just happened a moment ago. Your poise, your confidence, and your intellect are really impressive, honey. I mean, they really are. And you know, I think most people here can tell you've gone through serious loss, that the best way to deal with it is to find purpose. And you found real purpose. And you are impressive. And thank you for sharing your strength, for helping us remember your friend Dominic Blackwell and Gracie Muehlberger. You know, Dominic and Gracie's parents are with us today. Are you prepared to stand up? If I don't want to embarrass you, but would you stand up?
Sometimes these get annoying when they go through all this.
If you have a moment afterwards, maybe you can come in the Oval with me if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to talk to you. Frank and Nancy, Brian and Cindy, everyone here, as they say, feels your pain a little bit, particularly if they've suffered a serious loss. You've now joined a terrible fellowship of loss that many people have experienced. There are too many survivors and advocates here for me to name everyone today, but let me say, the loss in this crowd is incalculable, but so is the strength. So is the strength. I believe our nation will be safer for your bravery, and I really mean that. Survivors like me and Manny and Claudia, Los Angeles Deputy Sheriff who survived an ambush by a shooter with a ghost gun, represent individuals and families all across this country whose lives have been forever changed by a ghost gun. Some made national headlines, many others did not. Today we honor your strength and your action. A year ago this week, standing here with many of you, I instructed the Attorney General to write a regulation that would rein in the proliferation of ghost guns because I was having trouble getting anything passed in the Congress. But I used what we call regulatory authority. A year later, we're here, we keep that promise. The gun lobby tried to tie up the regulators and paperwork for a long, long time. The NRA called this rule I'm about to announce extreme. Extreme.
It's
Let
not.
me ask you, is it extreme to protect police officers, extreme to protect our children,
because it does
Extreme to
nothing
keep guns out
but
of the
hurt
hands of people who couldn't even
legal
pass a
gun owners.
background check? Look, the idea that someone on a terrorist list could purchase one of these guns is extreme. It isn't extreme, just basic common sense.
It's
You
not
know-
basic common sense because it doesn't do anything to illegal gun owners.
If you buy a couch you have to assemble, it's still a couch.
That has nothing to
If
do
you
with
order a
it.
package like this one over here that includes the parts you need, the direction of assembling a functioning firearm, you bought a gun. Take a look.
Here we go.
Take a look at this. Comes in this package. You can see the picture down here, maybe.
Okay, what you're looking at is that's the mold
It's not hard to put together.
that you can melt polymer into
Doesn't take very long.
to make a lower,
Anyone can order it in the mail.
but it's
Anyone.
not as simple as just melting polymer
Folks,
into the lower.
A felon, a terrorist, a domestic
Mold.
abuser can go from a gun kit to a gun in as little as 30 minutes.
That's
Buyers aren't
incorrect.
required to pass background checks.
I'm
because
goddamn
guns
okay.
have no serial numbers, these guns.
I'm goddamn good at stripping down firearms, cleaning them, putting them back together. 30 minutes is horseshit. If you are manufacturing, if you are putting together a gun for the first time, and trust me when I tell you this, it's not as simple as I'll just slap this in, I'm good. No. Because anybody can tell you, anybody out there can tell you, if you've ever worked with molding material, okay, have you ever built models that come as as a molded, and you still have to manipulate it, you still have to sand it and do other things? Okay, same thing with those kits. When you get the polymer blank, that's the lower, okay, or not the blank, but when you get the actual polymer piece that was in that mold, you still have to file things down. You still have to line things up. It still requires a knowledge of firearms and how they work and how the parts work together. It is not as simple as, oh, look, I got some shit in the mail and boom, I got a gun. It doesn't work that way. I'm tired of hearing them say that. It's like assault weapons. Assault weapons don't exist. There is no such thing. And these polymer molded guns that are ghost guns, which they're polymer molds of the lowers, still require fine tuning in order to make them work. They keep making it sound like your 5-year-old can put one of these together. No, they can't. This isn't a Lego kit, folks.
When they show up at a crime scene, they can't be traced. Harder to find and prove who used them. I mean, you can't connect the gun to the shooter and hold them accountable. In fact, the ATF reports that they've been able to trace less than 1% of ghost guns reported by law enforcement.
Okay,
So
that's
it
true.
makes sense. The police across the country are increasingly finding ghost guns at crime scenes. And by the way, ghost guns can be, quote, rifles, essentially assault weapons as well.
There's no
It's
such
just
thing
one
as
version.
assault weapons. I wish
The
people would
kids
stop
combined.
fucking saying that.
Last year alone, law enforcement reported approximately 20,000 suspected ghost guns to be to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
Okay. They said 20,000, right? Okay, so you think that's a lot. Okay. Now you think, oh, that's a big number. Do you know how many do you know what the number of seized firearms by the Department of Justice, whether it be the FBI, the Secret Service, ATF, Border Patrol, Rangers, state police, local police? You know how many guns were confiscated last year that were illegally owned that are serialized numbers? Try close to 1 million. Huge number for serialized guns versus ghost guns. There's not that many out there. There are a bunch out there, but they're not as easy as they claim. Nikolai says an arrow from a 25-pound bow will go through a police vest The shock plate is only part of the shock plate is the only part of an arrow won't go straight through. Not quite. I wouldn't quite say a 25-pound bow because we shot that at the police academy because I happened to have my recurve in the car and I had some hunting arrows on it because I hadn't taken the heads off yet. And on most of your level 3 vests, it will not penetrate the plate. However, if you have a compound bow, I have seen videos of compound bows, the arrow going through a level 3 vest. But guess what? If you do that with a bow, technically, by the definition, assault and weapon as two separate words, that makes, here's how stupid it is. If I take a set of these wire crimpers right in here and I hit you with it, technically this is an assault weapon. Why? Because I committed a crime by hitting you with them. I committed assault by striking you with them and turn this into a weapon. This is the lunacy of this shit. Okay? This is the lunacy. If I hit you with a pencil, that becomes an assault pencil. A number 2 could be an assault weapon. If I go through with a hatchet and start hatcheting people, that technically makes that an assault weapon until somebody dies. Then it becomes a murder weapon. But once again, it wasn't the hatchet that killed him. That's the other thing that you notice. These guns are deadly. No, the people that operate them are deadly. That's the other thing that irritates me about this. When we're going to sit here and go, these guns will kill people. No, the person pulling the trigger kills the person. Why? They made the decision to pull the trigger. The gun did not make that decision. That's the other thing I hate about this. Guns will kill people. No, people kill people. I could kill people with a hammer. Are we going to put serial numbers on hammers now? This is the shit I hate. I hate this. I hate the way that they're using the explanations. This is typical liberal logic 101. We hate guns. Nobody should own guns. He's going to say something else that I've already debunked on this show too. So be prepared.
That's a tenfold increase in these ghost guns from 2016. Tenfold in 5 years. These guns are weapons of choice for many criminals. We're going to do everything we can to deprive them of that choice. And when we find them, put them in jail for a long, long time. Law enforcement is sounding the alarm. Our communities are paying the price, and we're acting. Today, the United States Department of Justice is making it illegal for a business to manufacture one of these kits without a serial number. Illegal. Illegal for a licensed gun dealer to sell them without a background check.
If you're a licensed gun owner, you can't sell a gun without a serial number. It's illegal.
Weapons like the one used in Saugus High School and to ambush deputies with us that are here with us today are being treated like the deadly firearms they are.
Okay, once again, because I'm going for my FFL, a licensed gun dealer cannot sell a firearm that doesn't have a serial number unless it's considered an antique and it is pre-serial numbered gun. If it is a gun, like you could buy a .45 revolver right now that has a serial number on it. But if you buy a .45 that was made, I think before 1945. I'll have to look it up. Okay. It doesn't have a serial number on it. Okay. It has to be a pre-serial numbered gun in order for you to sell it without a serial number. Any gun manufactured after a certain date or a certain type of firearm that was required to have a serial number on it, you cannot sell a firearm that doesn't have it. So if you get an AR-15 right now, that's a ghost gun that somebody manufactured, if somebody tries to sell you that gun, you're not allowed to purchase it. You're required to notify ATF. Okay? If somebody gives you one to sell and then you can't sell it as a licensed firearms dealer. You can't do it. This is a law that doesn't need to exist because the laws already exist.
And if somebody sells a ghost gun to a federally licensed dealer, for example, a pawn shop, that dealer must make the firearm and mark it with a
Well, at
serial
least
number
now they can.
before reselling it.
A guy can bring me
All
a
of a
ghost gun. I
sudden,
can buy it and then stamp
It's
it.
no longer a ghost. It has a return address. It's going to help save lives, reduce crime, and get more criminal.
He just said serial numbered guns having an address. I mean, technically, if the serial number is registered to a person, that person has an address. But what if that person has a P.O. box? Hold on, I need to keep going. He's going to say something that's...
off the streets. And this rule is only part of our strategy to go after ghost guns. In February, the Department of Justice launched a national ghost gun enforcement initiative, intensifying our efforts to bring cases against those who use ghost guns illegally. We're teaching investigators and prosecutors.
See, that's worthless talk, too. Using a ghost gun illegally. Using a ghost gun is illegal. Sorry. It's... any... Oh, damn. Well, I have a light that went out. A gun that is manufactured after a certain date is still required to have a serial number. Guess what? There we go. Light's back on. So guess what? Owning a ghost gun that was manufactured after that date requires a serial number. Therefore, illegal to have a ghost gun.
Best practices, how to build these cases, and assigning a coordinator in each of the ATF field divisions to serve as a point person for helping federal, state, and local law enforcement go after ghost guns. If you commit a crime with a ghost gun, expect federal prosecution. Not just state, expect federal prosecution. This rule is an important step. It's going to make a difference, I promise you. And there are a lot of other things we know work to reduce gun violence and other violent crimes and save lives. That's why I put together
Here's
a
an idea,
comprehensive
convict
strategy
people.
to supercharge what works while continuing to push Congress to act on sensible legislation to prevent gun violence. In addition to today's rule, we're working on 4 areas. First, we're going after rogue gun dealers. The last time we had data on this was more than 20 years ago. 5% of gun dealers sold 90% of illegal guns found at crime scenes. 5% sold 90%. These merchants of death are breaking the law for profit, selling guns that are killing innocent people. We're cracking down on these gun dealers and the violent criminals they knowingly arm. Second, we're disrupting illegal gun trafficking. Attorney General Garland has directed all U.S. attorneys to prioritize combating gun trafficking that is moving guns across state lines and city boundaries. The Justice Department is surging prosecutorial resources to help shut down these trafficking corridors, including the one known as the Iron Pipeline that funnels weapons from gun shops in states like Georgia to crime scenes up and down the East Coast. Thirdly, we're funding strategies we know reduce gun crime, community policing, and community violence interruption. Look, I've said it many times. The answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police and give them the tools and training to support they need to be better partners and protectors of our communities in need.
Okay, we all know that's a lie because during the campaign he talked about defunding the police. Okay, but here's a statistic for you. Here's an interesting fact. Okay, do you know who commits 85% of gun violence in the United States? Actually, 90%. It's 90% gun violence. Same race crimes. White on white, black on black, Mexican on Mexican, Asian on Asian, so forth. Okay? Why don't we address that? Black on black crime is higher than any of them. Why don't we address that and find out why that's a problem? That could solve a lot of issues. Here's another idea. Instead of trying to push this at a federal level to make Congress act, because Congress is not going to act, why don't we push prosecutors in local areas in states to actually prosecute people? Just an idea.
I've already made clear that I want cities, states, counties, and tribes to use some of the $350 billion we sent to them in the American Rescue Plan that I wrote in the first month to reduce gun violence, hire police officers for community policing, pay police overtime, purchase crime-fighting technologies. They were given the money, they can do it. Spend it. And now, on top of that, I'm calling for additional funding to put police on the streets for community policing. One thing we learned in the middle of the crime wave not long ago, when the cop knows by first name who owns the corner drugstore, who lives in the apartment above 6B, who the people who are the pastors of the churches, guess what? People talk to them. They trust them.
No, they don't.
General in Delaware, he'd go around.
No, they don't. They don't trust the cops anymore. Thanks to you and your group saying that you can't trust the fucking cops, they don't trust them anymore. I've talked to many cops who are my friends, who have told me, Rich, these people used to be cool, come into the neighborhood, used to shoot hoops with them, used to do this, used to hold barbecues, do all kinds of stuff. Now nobody will come around us. They don't trust us. They think we're all the enemy. And we didn't do anything to make them believe that. Because that's the narrative. So, don't give me that. He knows them all. They'll talk to him. No, they won't, because you people keep telling them that they're the enemy.
And make sure everybody literally in these high crime rate neighborhoods, he'd give them his personal cell phone number and instructed all the cops to do the same thing. And they did. And the crime plummeted.
He doesn't.
Not
He
a
didn't.
joke. Look at the record.
He doesn't tell you that he's talking about a cop friend of his that's in Delaware in a town that has like 600 people in it. I know. I was born and raised in Delaware, and I lived in a town that down in town has 125 people, and then in the rural area has like another 200 people. It's everybody knows everybody. You can sit there and say, you know that person? We've met.
Not just my son, but all across the nation. And for the FT to hire agents, they need to help to fight gun crime. More agents. My budget funds body cameras, make sure police work with our local communities and are accountable to the local communities. We're also investing in community violence intervention. These are areas of local programs that utilize trusted messengers, community members, and leaders to work directly with people who are the most likely to commit a gun crime or become victims of gun crime. Get to them early. It works. It works. They intervene before it's too late. Fourth, we're funding jobs and training for young people, summer programs, drug treatment, mental health, housing availability, criminal justice reform, and reentry support for people coming home after incarceration. Right now, you get let out of prison after serving your time, you get a bus ticket and $25. You end up under the same bridge you left 2, 5, 10 years earlier. If you serve your time, you qualify for Pell Grants, you qualify for housing, you qualify for food, you qualify to get back into the community. Give them a fighting chance.
I don't have a problem
These are all
with any of that.
demonstrated ways to reduce crime. And I'm strongly urging cities, states, counties, and tribes to use the rescue plan funding we sent them to do more in each of these areas. And they need to do more and do it quickly before the summer when crime typically surges around America. So, we're pushing in each of these areas. But none of this absolves Congress, with all due respect to my members of Congress here, they're the wrong people I'd be talking to, for the responsibility to act.
He's talking about the Republicans.
We need Congress to pass Universal background checks.
Universal. We already have them.
Universal background checks.
You buy a firearm, you have to have
I
a
know it's
freaking
controversial,
background
but
check.
I got it done once. Ban assault weapons and high capacity
There's no
magazines.
such thing as an assault weapon.
I was getting criticized when I first passed this law when I was a senator. And guess what? I was down in southern Delaware, do a lot of hunting and fishing down there. And I was walking up one of the creek beds. And the guy standing there said, "You want to take my gun?" I said, "No, I'll take your gun." He said, "Well, you're telling me I can't have more than the next number of bullets in my gun." And I said, "What do you think the deer you're hunting or wear Kevlar vests? What the hell you need 20 bullets for? You must be a hell of a terrible shot." I'm serious. Think about it.
By the way, I know the guy that he said that to. Like I said, it's Delaware. In southern Delaware, we've met. That guy's an excellent fucking shot. And that wasn't the crux of the conversation. One of these days I'll tell you about that conversation he had. I've met the guy that he talked to.
Think about the mass shootings. As many as 100 rounds. It's a weapon of war. There's nothing to do with recreation.
Actually, that's incorrect. For those of my people that listen and view that live out in the desert states, you need a long rifle, SKS, AR-15. Rifles like that in order to get shots on deer because you can't get... See, and that's the other problem you have with this guy. When he's talking about, well, in Delaware, we're going to go hunting. In Delaware, I use a shotgun. Why? Because in my deer stand, probably the furthest away I'm going to have a deer is 50 yards. Maybe. Okay. My ex-father-in-law, because I asked him, because I didn't know why you needed a long rifle to shoot. Amber could tell you, who was watching. Okay. I didn't know, and I had to ask him. I said, "Pat, why do you need a long rifle to shoot deer?" Because I grew up in the woods, and you shoot deer in the woods. He said the closest you get to some of these deer is 125 to 150 yards away. So then, yes, you need that because you're not shooting a deer at 150 yards with a Mossberg 500. It's not happening. Not unless you're going to cannon shoot that thing and lob it in and hope you hit something. Okay. But I had to ask that question because I didn't understand, because I grew up on the East Coast. Joe Biden, East Coast, hunts. He hunted. Okay? If you hunt on the East Coast, you don't understand that there are places in this country where when you shoot, the closest you're going to get is 125, 150 yards. You're not doing that with a shotgun. You're not doing that with a black powder rifle. Not happening. You need a long rifle. You need high velocity ammunition. Period. That's why, yes, I had an AR-15 for hunting in the desert.
Outright ban of the sale and possession of unserialized guns. Eliminate gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. They're the only outfit. They're the only outfit in the country that is immune. Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to prostitute being sued.
Actually, the tobacco companies aren't immune. Were immune for quite a long time. You could die of cancer from smoking, and you could not do anything to a tobacco company. So that's a lie. Okay. And this whole idea that gun manufacturers are now responsible if somebody goes out and shoots somebody is insane. Insane. Because it is not. If that's the case, when are we going to go after beer? When are we going to go after beer manufacturers, liquor manufacturers, anybody that sells alcohol, that manufactures alcohol? When are we going to go after them for DUIs? For everybody killed in a DUI? Period. This is the stupidity of this.
Come on. In February, the families of 9 of the Sandy Hook shooting victims achieved a settlement against the maker of guns that was used to kill their children. The Sandy Hook folks are here. Are you embarrassed to ask you to stand up?
Yeah, I thought that was the most asinine thing ever, and I did a story on it.
These folks right here did more to keep all this going than anybody. We owe you, man.
If I was a gun manufacturer, I'd stop making guns right then and there. I'd shut my doors. I would. I'd shut my doors. Which sucks because that's less firearms on the market for legal, responsible gun owners to own.
Never goes away, does it?
I know. We've gone way over on
God
the show.
love you.
Dave, I'm sorry.
Look, this is incredibly rare because gun manufacturers have more immunity from liability than any other American industry. So
Not
they've
true.
never had to take responsibility for the death and destruction their products caused. But as part of this settlement, Remington agreed to release thousands of pages of internal documents. You did that. And here's why it's so important. Remember, it wasn't until we saw the internal documents that we really understood what cigarette manufacturers are doing to our kids and our families. Now, we may begin to see what gun manufacturers are and are not doing when it comes to making and marketing their deadly products. And by the way, it's going to sound bizarre. I support the Second Amendment. You have a right. But from the very beginning, the Second Amendment didn't say you can own any gun you want, as big as you want. You couldn't buy a cannon when, in fact, the Second Amendment passed.
That is a lie. And I've proven that because Jefferson and Jackson, and I believe Davis, who were all involved in writing the Second Amendment, literally somebody asked, does this mean I can own a cannon? Okay. Because the government owns a cannon. Can I own a cannon? All of them said, yes, you can. And in fact, we had people called privateers. They owned their own ships, and they had legally owned cannons. Here's another proof that, yes, you can own a cannon. There's a gentleman that I respect very well that I've actually worked for at one time that owns a trucking company that owns a cannon. He let my dad use it. He legally owns a cannon. So you can't own a cannon? I know people. I know people that own cannons. Civil War reenactors that legitimately own cannons. So that's horseshit. By the way, cannons are pre-serial number manufactured. So they may not have a serial number on them. Just saying.
And certain people from the very beginning weren't allowed to purchase guns. It's nothing new. It's just rational. Look, this should be just a start.
All right, so he just kind of rambles on a little bit more and doesn't go. But once again, like I said, you can own cannons. There was people who owned cannons. And why is that not coming up? Bring that over there. There we go. People could own cannons. And like I told you before, I've discussed this. They asked the federal government. There was people who asked the government, can I own a cannon? The federal government can own a cannon. Can I? And they said yes. You can. You can own a cannon. I know people right now that own cannons. I know people right now own fully automatic weapons legally. But it requires an FFLA. Okay? In order to own one. So you can literally own any gun that exists, except for you can't own a grenade launcher or a missile launcher. You can't own a fully operational tank. They don't let you have that. You can own an F-16. Well, not an F-16, an F-15. But it cannot have the capability of launching missiles and shit like that. Why? There's a guy in Minden that literally owns an F-15, a MiG-28, and I forgot what the other one is. It's parked in the Minden airport in a hangar. When I worked security over at Starbucks for a little bit of time, right next to the roasting plant, dude used to take off in his MiG or his F-15 and fly around. You can own a tank, but it can't. But it cannot function like a military tank. It can drive around. You can move the barrel, but you can't shoot out of it. Barrel has to be plugged. Okay, so you can use it for a showpiece, but you can't actually lob a round out of it. Okay. So there's almost nothing you can't own. But requires licensing. Requires certifications. So once again, this bill that they're talking about is only going to affect legal responsible gun owners because they're going to make background checks on everything. Once again, before I told you they want to put a $200 tax on anything you can purchase for a firearm. Now with this one, if I buy a rebuild kit for that sitting right there, I've got to go through another background check if this goes through. Because all the parts inside are the same parts that you buy for one of these ghost guns. Okay? They're talking about banning assault weapons. There was a problem with banning assault weapons. There's no such thing. So, how can you ban something that doesn't exist? Guns the military uses. I got a Mossberg 500 in the other room. The military uses it. You can get issued one. Okay, so what? We're gonna ban pump shotguns because the military uses them. Military still issues revolvers. We're gonna ban those too. They're assault weapons. That right there. Not that particular one, but another 45 almost exactly like it. Military issues it. So if you're going to use the terminology, well, if it's military uses it, then it's bannable. That's every damn weapon you can purchase now. All of them. Okay, because assault weapon is a made-up term. Ghost guns exist, but they're not as common and as easy as you think they are. Okay? They're not. In fact, that guy on YouTube that 3D printed a 40 caliber gun that he made 3D printed it and it worked was forced by the ATF to surrender the plans to it and was not permitted to share it. He shared it. It was up for 24 hours. And the federal government came in and shut him down and told him he could not do it. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now as a responsible gun owner that I am. Okay, and if you're thinking about buying a firearm, please do. Buy a firearm. If you're okay upstairs, you don't think you're going to harm anybody or yourself, and you want to have one for home defense, or if you want to have one so you can go to the range and have some fun, by all means, go buy a firearm. I support you 100%. Okay? But if you go to buy a firearm, and if somebody tells you, all right, well, I'm going to sell you this firearm. Okay, so how much is the background check? Oh, it doesn't need one. Walk away. Walk away. Don't go online and go, well, I can sell you a firearm and it doesn't require a background check. Don't buy it. Because one day you'll do something. The cops will be involved. And then they'll find a firearm that you own that doesn't have a serial number. Poof, it's gone. And you're gonna get arrested. Understand before you buy a firearm. Know the laws. Know no responsibility. Take a gun safety course. Even if your state doesn't require a concealed weapons course, take a concealed weapons safety course anyway. Take close quarters home defense courses. I used to teach it. In fact, I'm thinking about teaching it again. Understand everything that you need to understand in order to own your firearm before you buy your first firearm. All of us that are responsible gun owners have done it. Understand that if you have children, make sure it's locked up. Make sure that your children do not have access to it. But make sure you teach your children this bad will hurt you permanently, can kill you. My children know this. They see my firearms. They know not to touch them. They know there's severe consequences if they do. I still keep a lock on them anyway. A locking mechanism that I can open up, but they cannot. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, they're adding all these regulations because they know they can't get rid of the Second Amendment. The NRA said that this is too extreme. Yeah, it's extreme against legal, responsible gun owners. It does nothing to people who illegally obtain firearms. We have laws on the books already, and those laws need to be enforced. I'm tired of them adding new laws. Let's just enforce the laws. Let's actually seriously prosecute people instead of don't do it again. Because they're going to do it again. Folks, for everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I've got to go. We ran longer. Poor Dave wants to go home. All right. So you guys have yourselves a wonderful night. For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I'm Rich Wilson. You're not. But make sure, folks, if you want to see more of this, more of my shows, stuff like that, make sure you click the subscribe button or the follow button. Make sure your notifications are on. It tells you every single time I'm on. That way you don't miss a single thing. Keep an eye on it. Also, if you want to support the show, go to therichwilsonshow.com. That is www.therichwilsonshow.com. Check out the merch. You'll find every single one of my social media pages on there and every way you can to follow me. Okay? You've every way to follow me. All right? And folks, if you want to add to the show, talk to me about, possible show ideas and stuff like that. I have a Discord channel for that. If you're on Discord, you'll find the link to my Discord on the richwilsonshow.com. Just look for the channel that's the Rich Wilson Show. Become a member. Okay, it doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't cost you nothing to be a member. Follow me. I don't charge people to become members. I don't think I ever will. But buy some merch. Okay? For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, again, I am Rich Wilson. You guys have yourselves a good night. I missed that, James. Sorry. Man, that means I can't kill geese with my tank, damn it. No, you can't. You guys have yourselves a good one. For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I'm Rich Wilson, and we'll see you later. Good night.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Good night. Go home. We'll see you later.